From the Mapleview Animal Hospital studios, this is the WHTC Morning News with Gary Stevens and Peg McNichol on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And welcome back to the WHTC Morning News for this Thursday, November the 5th. Thursday mornings, we have the opportunity to get some thoughts from the will-be eventually six-term Republican Congressman from R-Zeeland, Bill Huizenga, is the other end of our Zoom connection. Bill, good morning, and welcome back to
Morning, Gary.
Glad you are with us, and congratulations on winning a sixth term.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad my election's over. Unfortunately, I don't think the election is quite over yet.
Let's talk a little bit about your particular election. It was, to use a MERS term, spirited race by challenger Reverend Brian Berghoff, and he had more votes than the previous challenger, Dr. Rob Davidson. Back-to-back good challenges for you that you had to face some scrutiny, and all good campaigns and all candidates really need to have that scrutiny. In the case of the U.S. House members, every 2 years.
Yeah, it's every 2 years, and there's no doubt iron sharpens iron. That is for sure. Interestingly enough, percentages, the Democrat percentage went down. My percentage went up from 2 years ago. And quite honestly, we know this from historical data, that more people show up in Michigan to come vote on presidential years. Traditionally, typically, that had been about 1 million more Democrats would come out and make it a worse Democrat year. With President Trump, that seems to be more of a Trump surge that happened. And here's some things that that sort of indicate that. Muskegon County, most Democrat county in West Michigan, I actually won it by 9 points. The Muskegon County County Commission races flipped, and it's going to be a Republican county commission in Muskegon County that I've never experienced. I haven't seen in all my time doing this. The drain commissioner. You saw these countywide level seats flip. You look at what happened further north, and then even in Kent County, Peter Meyer had a solid win. I won the portion of Kent County that we had lost Kentwood, but I had lost both Wyoming and Kentwood, and actually won Wyoming this time. So it's kind of an all over the place election. Obviously, everybody's going to be pulling these numbers apart and trying to figure out what's going on.
Let me ask you about further south. Fred Upton, many thought was going to be susceptible, that the Democrats going to be able to flip that seat from red to blue. But some saying, I'm going to quote MERS, John Hoadley underperformed in Kalamazoo. I don't want you to gauge his campaign or Fred's campaign, but as you mentioned with some of your results and some of the results in the district, it's almost as if people were splitting their votes instead of voting one straight party or the other.
Yeah, they were in the second district. It was me, then John James, then the president. That obviously indicates split votes. John Hoadley was, shall we say, a flawed candidate. That the Democrats figured that out late. They pulled their money out of there. So did he underperform, or did the Trump vote overperform? I mean, there's arguments on both sides of that. But Fred ran a good, solid race. Same thing with Peter. Same thing with me. Frankly, I mean, we spent over 8 weeks on television. 4 years ago, I didn't do that at all. In fact, 4 years ago, with President Trump on the ballot, I ended up with 62.6. This time it was about 3 points less than that, down at 59, which is still a good, solid win. But we certainly had to get out there and spend some money that we hadn't had to do traditionally on traditional media, as well as obviously digital is just huge as a part of this.
Yeah, but definitely I can attest to that, seeing all the digital ads that I've seen from both sides of the aisle over the last 6 weeks or so. You mentioned iron sharpening iron and having a very contested, a spirited race in your situation, even though percentages were a little bit higher. However, uh, in that light, then, does that mean that you're going to have to, not maybe wrong way of phrasing this, but you're going to have to be able to say, hey, I'm being more responsive. How can you make sure that
Yeah.
that situation gets closed so that come 2022, if you wish to run again, that's not going to be thrown at you as it apparently has been thrown over the last couple of elections on you?
Gary, it's thrown at every person who's an incumbent. And here's what I would say is I would say that line of attack was repudiated. Why in the if I'm ignoring West Michigan, why did I increase vote totals in Muskegon County? Why did I overperform every other Republican in Ottawa County? So this is what happens, and this is what gets people frustrated. When you pull in DC consultants and quote unquote campaign professionals, and they tell you that you have to dirty up your opponent and you have to spread debunked lies, frankly, to go out and win. I know my opponent had said, "Well, a criticism is good." Well, that's not a criticism of policy. All right, go ahead, knock yourself out. Let's have the policy debate. But when political consultants tell you that you have to drag up old debunked lines of attack, then that's just mudslinging. So again, go after me on my voting record. Don't drag me, my family, and my staff through the mud, and try to tell people that I'm not responsive or that I'm not involved or engaged in our community. Guess what? The people of the community said, you know what? That was wrong. Bill actually is a part of our community.
All right. Maybe I'm asking a question of a biased observer. I'm going to be honest and say you're a biased observer because you are part of the process. But do you get the sense that people are getting sick and tired of some of the angles that's been used in campaigning? That maybe if this year is any tipping point, the negative ads and the ads that try to point out the flaws in the opponent, people are just saying, "Hey, enough is enough." I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe again, I'm asking a biased person, and maybe
Gary,
I don't know.
No, you're right. You're right. And I actually heard this from people. I never once mentioned my opponent, and I never once ran a negative ad. And that's what people look at, and they go, John James with his big pharma buddies. It's like John James hasn't been in office, right? So how's he supposed to be supportive of these things? That's the kind of stuff that people go, okay, we're just going to dismiss everybody and every claim that they have. Honestly, what was gratifying election day, if you caught my any of my Twitter or my Facebook feed, we were out at Marge's Donut Den. That's kind of been a tradition. Rainbow Grill in Hudsonville, Anna's house. We kind of make our way around and just see people and touch base. And I had multiple people stop me and say, you know what? I so appreciate what you did. The fact that you talked about yourself, you didn't talk about your opponent. You were positive. We were upbeat. We were trying to put a different face on it very intentionally. And I think that also helped as the voters looked at that and said, you know what, with all this, I'll clean it up, with all this stuff flying around, right? You didn't succumb to that. And that was very intentional.
That's your own campaign. A lot of this negative stuff comes from political action committees where you're stuck with.
You can't control outside groups. That is for sure. And that is, you can only control what you can control. But we were very happy with how we ran our campaign.
All right, let's suppose talking on November 5. We right now don't know if we are going to see a change in the White House. to a certain extent, we still don't know if we're going to see a change in control of the U.S. Senate. It's still, technically not confirmed yet that it's going to be maintained in Republican control. It looks as if the House is going to stay in Democratic hands. What do you see in first glance if things go as we're seeing right now? Joe Biden becomes that. What do you see up ahead in the short term over the next couple of years, at least?
So interestingly enough, the House will remain in Democrat-controlled hands. The day before the election, and even on election day, Nancy Pelosi was out there talking about a 15 to 20 seat pickup for the Democrats. The exact opposite happened. Right now, we're at 7 that Republican pickup seats, and it's going to grow higher, probably up to about 10. You see that all of the pundits and the pollsters talked about how the Senate was going to flip. That didn't happen. There's some tight races out there yet, but those are going. So what's going to happen? Here's what we've already heard from some colleagues over on the other side of the aisle. They are in complete disarray because you've got that AOC, very hard left socialist Democrat wing pushing Speaker Pelosi for an agenda that, frankly, had her 10 of her members lose. These more moderate members are looking around and going, "Wait a minute, this is not an agenda we're comfortable with." And so far, 7 of them lost. There's going to be a few more, and there's a bunch of others that had very narrow victories, including, it looks like, the head of the DCCC, Sherry Bustos out of Illinois, who has a razor thin margin. So what's going to happen, whether there's a Joe Biden White House or a Donald Trump White House? The House Democrats are in a bit of a crisis right now. They're going to have to go figure out what an agenda is that is going to actually work, not just fulfill check boxes on the political front. We have to get some policies going. Senate's going to continue to be narrowed up potentially by a seat or 2, but Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans are probably going to be a backstop, much like they were with Barack Obama for the first couple of years. The White House, we'll see what that agenda is. If they follow the agenda that they laid out, I would expect a pretty hard left turn from the Democrats and from a Biden-Harris White House, and I think that Kamala Harris is going to have an outsized role in what that policy is going to be. So we're going to have I guess we used the word spirited earlier. So we're going to have a spirited 2 years. There's no doubt.
He is Congressman Bill Huizenga. He joins us every Thursday morning, most Thursday mornings, talk about some of the things going on in Washington. Bill, congratulations on your victory, and we look forward to chatting with you again next Thursday morning. Thank you, Bill.
Sounds good. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you very much, Bill Huizenga, on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.